guys had a good lunch? Yeah, okay, fantastic. We only have 5 minutes, and then we have 2 minutes for questions, so I'm going to go really, really fast. You're going to pay a lot of attention for 5 minutes. So today we're going to talk a lot about understanding data and how data impacts economics. Who here built economics? Or who here deals with economics? Okay. Who here are founders and cares about economics? And who here are builders? Great. Good. Wow, a very, very even split. So just a TLDR of economics and data. When people think about economics, people usually think about it in a 0 to 1 phase. When I need to launch a token, when I need to launch my project, I need to think about tokens and how tokens interact in the space. And that's where a lot of the focus has been, which rightly so. Things like your modeling, your agent-based simulations, your risk testing, your risk scenario analysis, that's a very, very big portion. At the same time, today I want you to start thinking about how can we use data to start understanding how the protocol has been doing and use data to help improve the health of the protocol. In every project, there are 2 key phases, 0 to 1 and 1 to 100. 0 to 1 is when you're brand new, you're fresh, it's MVP, finding product market fit, going to market. And there you use a lot of economics and to build, it's all theory-based to build out the economics. On the other hand, when it's live, in your 1 to 100, you actually have user feedback, live data, validated data that you could stress test the system and really understand how users behave. So the challenge that I want you guys to start thinking about is how is the data giving us information about how users are interacting with the protocol? The truth is that as much as you're building the economy, you're defining the economy, you're writing out the rules of how this game works. And people are just going to game the system. Whether you like it or not, people are just going to game the system. They're going to find loopholes. They're going to find ways to extract more APY, more value. And that's fine. That's normal. In fact, once you launch the project, things are just going to get more and more chaotic. If everything follows the model and everything follows the simulations that were built out, all the economists that I know, they'll be really, really rich. But economists are quite poor people. So the reality is that it's not like models. It's not like simulation. So you need to be able to balance that. And one way to start thinking about it is using a lot of SaaS metrics, SaaS analytics. Things like average revenue per user, user acquisition, user retention. All these data will be very valuable and insightful to understand how users are behaving and interacting with the protocol. At the end of the day, tokens are just an incentive to get people to behave in a certain way. So once we have the data, we can validate if users are really reacting to these incentives or not. And it's fine. If they're reacting to it, double down. If they're not reacting to it, how do we change? How do we update the rules, update the system? So that's the general gist. Happy to go into more case studies, happy to answer more questions. And I think there'll be time for questions. Do you guys want to raise your hand and see how far I can throw this damn thing? Okay, I'm going to throw it and then you try catching, okay? Hey, good job! All right, go ahead.
Hey everyone, Robbie, look at X, Y, Z.
Well, actually, you can talk.
Oh, I can talk in this.
Yes.
Oh, that is crazy. I thought that was just a fun exercise we were doing.
Exercise, gotta keep fit.
Yes, I love your videos. I love just everything that you do. From your perspective, what has been the most successful tokenomic design in terms of adoption from a data perspective? So I know, for context, you see a lot of tokens, or just protocols use LP incentives, right? But, if you look at the data that, Uniswap has put out, they typically aren't very sustaining, even though they might, cause temporal advancement in terms of what you're trying to achieve. And it seems as though there are not too many sustaining tokenomic designs that actually drive, wanted behavior over the long term. So just wanted to know your thoughts on that.
Yes, very good question. And as an economist, the answer is it depends. However, there's context to this. It depends on 2 main factors, your business model and your revenue stream. If your main goal is to get more liquidity in there, and then you need these incentives to bootstrap liquidity versus you need incentives to keep getting more people to interact with the protocol, these are all different kind of behaviors. At the end of the day, the question you're asking is, what is the best incentive out there? My question to you then is, what is the behavior we're trying to incentivize? Are we trying to incentivize user acquisition or user retention? Take airdrop, for example, which is a very popular thing, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but it's a great distribution mechanism. The pros of that, let's start with pros. Huge user acquisition. However, the cons of that is there is lack of user retention. People are there just for the financial gains. And as I said, when you put the rules of the system out, the rules of the game, people are just here to exploit the system. So, which is fine. Maybe you could start off with user acquisition and some airdrops, but it doesn't need to run for such a long time. Take the data and understand how users are reacting to it. Alternatively, it's point system where you've heard a lot about, and also how do you allocate reputation to different kind of people so that they can, and then we can start allocating it correctly to the right kind of users.
Hi. So thank you for a great talk. And my question is more around the social aspects of a platform, right? So tokenomics, it's easy to understand, not easy, but I mean, it's different to understand ROIs and things that are more financial and like one-dimensional. But on social, like I'm from grabber.xyz, and we're trying to optimize social interactions and meaningful social interactions. I wonder if you know some examples of where this comes in and where you saw like remarkable examples of like tokenomics that work with the social aspect.
That's a very good question, because everything that we've been talking about so far is always the quantitative, because quantitative is something that we can measure. Your APYs, your TVLs, all of these are some things we can measure, and once you can measure that, you can always optimize for that. And I really love your perspective, which is social. Social is really hard to quantify, it's really hard to define. And one example will be things like governance or decision-making protocols. So one thing to think about, or one avenue to start considering, is how can we tie in the natural way that people go inclined to, which is financial incentives, tie it with the social aspect. Take Polymarket, for example, right? The biggest case study of this year. How do you use financial incentives as a way to signal preferences? And from there, you can start building very, very complex models and very complex decision-making mechanisms that takes into consideration both the social aspects and the qualitative aspects and the quantitative aspects. I'm happy to go more into details later.
Yeah. We have another question over there.
Thank you very much. So I wanted to follow up to the first question, because you said that different type of activities require different type of incentives, which is, I totally agree with that. So we have analyzed, for example, LTIPP data from Arbitrum, where Arbitrum spent $15 million on incentivizing DeFis and dApps and user acquisition for them. And the thing is that most of those users basically left dApps and DeFis after 3 months, either to move to another program, for example, ZK Sync Ignite, which is pretty similar and is happening right now. I mean, it's work in progress. So basically, we call these users mercenary users. So what are your ideas and thoughts about keeping the, retenting these users, keeping their retention in the ecosystem, and fighting off also mercenary users who basically move from program to program to utilize it for their own profit?
So I'll give you the short answer first, and happy to talk about the long answer after. The short answer is that these things are something we cannot control. This is just natural forces of how the market works. When there is green grass, the sheep will just go there and eat the damn grass. That's just how reality works. There's no point controlling that. It's not possible to control. What we can do is to understand that it's going to exist, and how do we channel the funds or the assets, the resources, to much better resources. So reputation building, understanding like transaction history. Are these people mercenary users, or are they actually value creators? At the end of the day, you are balancing two things. One is value extractor in the short term, and one is value creator in the long run. And what are the different nuances within your business, within the protocol, within the foundation, that help to channel towards the other side of things? So there's an aspect of token. There's also an aspect of business model and revenue stream that you have to balance quite a bit.
That was the last question. Thank you very much for your talk. Please give a nice round of applause to Lisa.